Well, good evening, ladies.
Good evening, Molly. Good evening,
Good evening,
Jen.
Soulfire. Yeah, good evening to you both. I'm so excited to be here with you guys again this evening. We are coming to you with Love and Shadow. We're going to be talking about the path from spiritual bypassing to grounded spirituality. And of course, as always, we've got Kim Summers and Jenny Townsend here with us tonight. I'm so excited to be sharing this space with you. We talked about starting off with grounding. Do we want to reintroduce? Where do you guys want to land? How do you want to?
Well, do we want to ground first and then introduce?
That works.
Let's do that.
Okay.
All right, good.
Yes, that sounds perfect.
And are we wanting Kim to do that?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's do something very similar to what we've done before, the welcoming prayer. It's non-denominational. It's just a spiritual grounding, quick meditation. So let's place our feet on the floor, feeling the floor or the earth beneath our feet, closing our eyes, opening our hearts, palms extended upward, ready to receive. And most importantly, we focus on our breathing. We recognize the desire to integrate, to reintegrate with who we truly are, focusing on our breathing. We welcome all the words that come to us with no judgment. We welcome all the thoughts that come to us with no judgment. We meet this conversation with grace and ease and flow, knowing that it's no accident that we're here at this time and space together, having this conversation, focusing on the breathing, remembering the truth of who we are and who we are not. And so it is.
So it is.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Molly, I just want to start off, if I may, by thanking you. I'm so grateful for the space that you've created here at Soulfire and the graphic, technological expertise and organizational skills that you have are such a gift. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And I'm so excited to have you both in this space and to be able to have this conversation, because these are the kinds of conversations that I really wanted to have. You know, we do so many wonderful things in this space, and I'm so grateful to everybody that has contributed and helped build it. They're all so important, but this especially, talking about the topic that we're going to be discussing tonight, grounded spirituality, is one that is so close to my heart and is so important to me. I can't tell you how thrilled I am, and I'm grateful to you both for being here and sharing your time and your experiences and your wisdom. I'm beyond thrilled. So thank you both.
Very good.
Very much.
Yeah. Should we go around, Molly, and introduce ourselves and tell a little bit about ourselves and
sure
the work we do?
Sure. I feel like at this point, most everybody that's here in Soulfire has seen me so many times. They probably are pretty well versed. In case you don't know me, my name is Molly Maloney. I'm a Reiki master, healer, teacher. I do Akashic Records consultations and mediumship. You'll see me on here doing live readings. So that's kind of the nutshell about me. I am very earnestly walking a spiritual path. And so, part of this process for me is not only coming here as a teacher, but very much, having the experience of, learning and growing and expanding and being able to share that. So that's a big part of this for me too.
Mhm. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kim.
My name is Kim Summers. I'm so grateful to be here. And like Molly and Jen, I'm just so grateful to be having this conversation. You know, I've learned that when I get real clear about what I don't want, I get real clear about what I do want. And that's kind of the path that's brought me to this moment. I'm a licensed massage therapist professionally. And by means of that work and life experiences that I've had, I've recognized and embraced this energetic knowing that I have, that I feel. I consider myself a very sensitive being, and I'm using that to serve humanity. I'm a mother of two beautiful Guatemalan children. Well, they're teenagers now. That keeps me super busy and grounded. So super happy to be here.
Yeah. My name is Jenny Townsend. I am a social worker, a licensed clinical social worker, and I have my own psychotherapy practice. I'm really glad to be here too, because it's kind of on the cusp of me including more spirituality in mental health field in my own practice. And I'm so glad to see that, like, especially in the topics we're covering and going to be covering, coming up, the way that that comes together. So I have had a lot of people attracted to me to do work with me that have been statistically abused. And so I just think the grounded topic, grounded spirituality it's just so much synchronicity to what's going on right now. So I'm really glad to be here. I'm really glad to share the space with you all, everybody. And yeah, so that's, and I'm also a Reiki master. So I do energy work, and I love the beauty of how energy work goes with psychotherapy as well, doing healing that doesn't have to be spoken. So I love that. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Mm.
Beautiful. And
We're in
before
good company.
Yeah, we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we jump into our conversation, just a reminder for everybody that's here with us, if you have questions or comments, please feel free and drop those in the comment section. We will do our best to break periodically and look at your comments, address your questions, that type of thing. So please don't hold back. That's we're here to have a conversation amongst all of us that are present. So please feel free and join in. So perfect.
Okay.
So we are talking about, I'm not sure, I posted a notice in the group a couple of weeks ago. I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago, talking about the fact, and hopefully this will, nope, it's backwards. I think there's a flippy thing on the camera. I still haven't figured it out, but we have been reading this book, Grounded Spirituality, which is kind of the foundation of our conversation this evening. It's a book by Jeff Brown. It's available you should be able to order it through your local booksellers. I know it's available on Amazon, so very easy to pick up, and so far it's been such an incredible read. I'm so excited to talk to you guys all about this book, because it's, the things that he discusses are so important and have been so important to me in my ongoing journey. So I'm really excited to jump in.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, Molly.
No, I was just gonna say, I know we had talked. I know, Kim, that you had some things that you wanted to share about your own experiences with grounded spirituality.
Yeah.
Great place to start.
Sure. So as I said before, when I get real clear about what I don't want, I get real clear about what I do want.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give you just a little bit of background information about why this whole subject of grounded spirituality is so important to me, because I know what ungrounded spirituality is.
Mm-hmm.
So to go back, and I won't go into too much detail, but as I look back on my life, I've been prepared for this moment. I've been getting prepared to be grounded spiritually. And the background is this. when my mother was 6 months pregnant with me, she was experiencing such trauma and blows from my father that she was a very traumatized woman. So I look back on it and I imagine what I might have been feeling inside of her while she was getting the abuse. Looking back on it, I believe that, no, I know that that's a huge part of why I am so sensitive today. So what I tried to do for many years was to escape that sensitivity. And I tried to escape it with alcohol, drugs, you name it, almost, I've done it. Religion, relationships, thinking that if I beat myself up enough, if I pummeled myself enough, that I could change myself. I joined Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, I was raised in the Pentecostal cult. So, you know, this pattern of constantly seeking outside of myself to soothe has been a pattern in very ungrounded ways, right? So it was religion, it was relationships. I would serial monogamy, you know, looking again for that outside fix. And what I really realize now is that dark night of the soul experience, that craving, that hitting the bottom as an alcoholic, hitting that bottom in relationship with folks, hitting that bottom, not finding spirituality out there or religion out there to soothe, hitting that bottom and going through that dark night of the soul in hindsight is the most amazing thing that could have ever happened, not to me, but through me. I'm no longer a victim. I recognize that these situations have occurred to move through me as a lesson, to say, what can I learn from this experience? I wouldn't wish any of these things on anyone. I wouldn't want to go through them again, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. So this ungroundedness that I've experienced all these years, and not understanding with the New Thought movement that I became a huge part of, and still am a part of, but my interpretation of what the New Thought movement was teaching, unity in particular, was just love and light, love and light. Let's just focus on the positive. And that made me neurotic because I wasn't getting to the underbelly of the pain. I wasn't getting to the deeper level of grief that was still there. I was masking it with all of these things that I've just mentioned to fill up what felt like a void. So I wondered, what in the heck is wrong with me, that just love and light and, you know, candles and incense and, you know, you name it, crystals, wasn't working. You know, it felt good and it was a quick fix for a while, but still there was that underbelly of feeling and emotion and grief that needed to be dealt with, that needed to be held and dealt with compassionately. So that's what's brought me to where I am today, and recognizing that until I'm willing to get uncomfortable, like the chrysalis becomes a butterfly, uncomfortable. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for what became my willingness to surrender. I'm not always there, but that has been the catalyst for me, was this willingness to say, I surrender. Show me the way. If there is a God, if there is a spirit, if there is this intelligent being, presence, move through me and show me the way. So as a result, I began 12-step program as an alcoholic. And what really got me was the 4th step. And I kept quitting every time I would get to the 4th step, because and the 4th step says that I will make a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. So we were invited to make this list of these things that we felt that we had done that were wrong, or offenses that someone had, done to us, and make this list. Well, as I said, I kept quitting on the 4th step because my spiritual bypassing. Let me just focus on the positive. This is negative energy, and I don't want to look at these things. So what would I do? I would quit, and I would go back out and drink again to fill that void, right? So on the 4th step, desperation was my greatest gift. Out of alcoholism, I was desperate. So I got so desperate that I did that darn 4th step. And that's when I really noticed a huge change in my life. What I thought originally was making this list of bad things about Kim became actually this list of reasons to have compassion for myself and others. So when I got to that place of compassion for myself, the tears flowed, the feelings and the understanding of needing to have deep compassion for myself and all that I'd experienced. And when I became compassionate for myself, I was able to have compassion for these parents that raised me and the abuse that they experienced as children. So it just became this unfolding of, let me say it this way, when I embraced my humanity, it's like my spiritual growth went warp speed because I embraced my humanity. So that's where I'm at today. Most of the time, like I said, not always there. But what I do know is I need to feel it to heal it. And it comes to that. And this book by Jeff Brown is so juicy and so rich and really touches on being grounded and not doing that spiritual bypass. Nothing wrong with the crystal, nothing wrong with the incense, nothing wrong with any of these things. They're beautiful tools. And when I get to that underbelly and can be authentic, that's when the spiritual practice becomes so rich. So that's what I invite you all to do. Pick up this book. It's amazing. And if you're really wanting to get on an authentic spiritual path and journey, welcome.
Beautiful.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for letting me share that.
Absolutely. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
So Jenny.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your relationship with, the concept of grounded spirituality and your path and, how.
Well, yeah. Okay. So like I said, spirituality has been a part of my life since I was a little girl. Had lots of experiences where I've heard things, seen things, and if I was so excited about them, but if I felt like I shared them with people, it was, ooh, that's weird or scary, right? So as I'm hearing Kim tell her story, I'm thinking about how shame makes people hide and go to these extremes, right? So if I didn't have that shame about who I was then maybe, like, where would I be today, right? Like, where else would I be? And then thinking about our original topic about QAnon and thinking about how those religious beliefs have become so extreme, like involving extreme religious beliefs. I don't know how else to say that, but I think that's fueled by shame and fueled by if I don't fit in with this, then I am bad or I am wrong, right? So, and it's just, it makes all of that negativity just grow and makes people afraid. So, like I said, I'm trying to include that spirituality back into my practice and not deny my humanness. It is a part of being human, in my opinion, that we are spiritual. So we're all connected to the divine, no matter how that, whether we're Christian or Buddhist or Hindu or, you know, call it universe, whatever it is, we're all connected to the divine. And as I'm reading, I identify a Christian belief. So as I'm reading Jeff's book, I keep thinking about Jesus, and I keep thinking about what I tell my daughters. Jesus was sent here to show us how to do it. You know, like he incarnated as a human being and lived that human experience, and he was with people that were human, like very human, right? And showed us how to forgive and showed us how to live life. So, and I think that's something that some Christians get wrong about Jesus, and they do not see his humanness. So I guess I'm finding my way back to kind of being okay with, you know, instead of I have these spiritual beliefs and I have Christian beliefs, and they can exist together because they are together. And I am human. And when I meet people in therapy, what you said, Kim, about the fourth step really reverberated with me too, because I can't tell you the many times that I've seen people across from me on the couch release the things that they have been ashamed of for so long. Just, it just lifts them out of the darkness. And when they experience that compassion for themselves, it's so freeing and so wonderful. And then they want to go and do it for other people, right? So I think I'm just thinking about work.
She froze on us. Give her a second here. Come on, interwebs. Hopefully she'll be back with us in just a second here. But, and actually we can take a second. Looks like we had a couple people pop up here. We've got Amy Jean Taylor is with us. She says she's talking
Amy Jean Taylor.
and the first thing she said is, I love Kim.
Mm.
She said it's scary too. She went through the dark night of the soul last year. She says, I'm still trying to mix the religion with spirituality.
Mm.
So it looks like Jenny dropped. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled here in case I have to push any more buttons, and hopefully she'll be back with us in a moment. But listening to you both speak, I think one of the things that really resonated for me, and it really made me think, you know, especially now we've had so much, you know, we've had so much chaos over the last year with COVID. And then of course, with all of the things that have been, you know, re-exposed about, you know, the racial tensions that exist and, you know, are very real in our country right now. And, you know, we just had another mass shooting in Atlanta 2 nights ago, where 8 people lost their lives. Most of them, of course, were Asian American. And, you know, we're having these conversations about, you know, hate. And, you know, one of the things for me is, you know, I think in order to, you know, hold those kinds of views about another person, you have to completely deny their humanity.
Mm.
I think the only way that you can deny the humanity of another person is if you are denying your own humanity, which is that's all of those pieces all of that shadow, all of that stuff that we don't want to deal with, we don't want to talk about. And so we tuck down into the shadow and work to bypass it. And that, that bypassing has so many different, paths where you talk about the spiritual bypassing, which is all, high vibes only, love and light, and, seems on the outside to be very positive, but that neuroses, I know exactly what you mean, that feeling that, all of these other people seem to be tapped into something and I still feel like shit, but I'm going to keep on smiling and burning my sage. And, I went through that myself, trying to, through this journey, this ongoing journey of trying to work with and heal my trauma. And it wasn't until I started, listening to conversations and then having conversations of my own about, no, you got to look at those pieces. All of those little pieces that you're trying to cut off and deny and you feel shame around are often some of the most beautiful and tender pieces of ourselves. They are the things that make us who we are. And in our last conversation, I know the topic of plant medicine came up a little bit, and I had, plant medicine has been a big part of my process too. And I had a journey not quite a year ago that was such, one of the beautiful things that I was shown during that journey experience was, the thinking about the dandelion pushing up through the cement. Life, life in all of its vibrance is going to continue to push its way through any way possible. And it's not about, us trying to be these perfect little beings. It is about us, each of us are, the embodiment, the expression of the divine in human form. And so for us to deny parts of our humanness, parts of the things that make us individual, and it's denying a part of God. It is denying the divine in us. So, this whole subject about grounded spirituality, when I was able to finally, not only be given permission to start taking a look at some of those darker pieces, those things that I didn't want to touch or were really painful and hard to hold, I was given permission and then shown how to hold those things. Everything unlocked. Everything just unlocked. I mean, it really, it was like the blinds flew open, the lights came on, and I was like, holy cow. It isn't about going up and out and finding validation outside of us. It is about, reaching in and going down into ourselves, connecting with ourselves, because that I have gotten closer to God going inward than I've ever gone outward. So it's it's everything. And I think one of the things that the Hindu goddess Kali is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I love her. And one of the things I love about her is, she's often referred to as this divine mother goddess figure, but you look at her and she's terrifying to look at. She's holding a head and she's got the sword and she's standing on a body and she's got this ring of skulls around her and she's got the fangs and the tongue is sticking out and it looks like this devil thing. But it to me, it's so symbolic of looking towards those things that we most fear to get close to, the destruction of the ego, and then finding that deep maternal love and being held. It makes me teary. Everything I think about that, it's just amazing. So thanks for letting me share that.
I love that, Molly. Yeah.
Molly, something that you said really, really resonated with me. If I can just get back to that. Sure. You first of all, thank you. That was just a beautiful share. Just, wow. Authentic heart sharing. You said something about having compassion for ourselves and how that enables us in embracing our own humanity, enables us to do that for others. Our listener here that we greeted, Amy Jean, she and I were on the front lines with the Black Lives Matter movement. And I swear to you, the Kali energy was palpable.
Yeah.
It was standing in the presence of this divine mother of fierce love. And the divine mother saying, oh no, not on my watch, you don't. And to be able to tap into that divine energy of anger, that divine energy of grief for what's happening to my beloved Black brothers and sisters, you know, that's sacred activism. When we're able, we're so effective. We're much more effective when we ground ourselves in this sacred work and then take it out into the world. That's when it's truly effective. And just thank you. Thank you for all that share. That was really rich. Thank you, Molly.
Yeah, thank you, Molly.
Thank you. Yeah, it makes me teary. And you know, you brought up the subject of anger. You know, and I think we talked a little bit about this last time, that sacred rage. And that's one of those things that people that are on a traditional spiritual path work so hard to bypass. And I know for me, that's one of the things that I'm working really hard to actually reconnect to, because it got to a place where I just had to unhook it. I didn't know what to do with it, and I was told that it was wrong, and it was especially unladylike. You know, nobody wanted to deal with an angry lady. So, and you know, it's funny because now we have the Karen memes that are everywhere. You know, the angry lady, but you know, that rage, being able to tap into that rage can be, you know, when it's healthy, when we're experiencing anger in the present moment, you know, when somebody, you know, walks over a boundary, or, you know, when we're being hurt, you know, that rage is important. It helps us enforce our boundaries, but it also creates, you know, it can be hugely transformative, such as, you know, in those protests and in those marches, you know, we're using that outrage to transform. And that's again, back to Kali, this destruction. We're destroying the ego and working towards something truly divine and encompassing of us all. It's amazing.
It's good.
Yeah, anger is a totally normal emotion to have. Love that you brought it up about boundaries. When somebody has violated your boundaries, it is completely angry about that. So, and I think you touched on something, Molly, about women and we're not allowed to be angry. We're supposed to smile. We're supposed to be motherly. We're supposed to be nurturing. So that is something that I've struggled with too, is giving myself acceptance of being angry. And then also looking inside that anger, what are the building blocks to that anger? Where have I felt violated? Where have I felt ignored? Where have I felt my boundaries being pushed? So I think that it's so important to explore, to be accepting and validating and compassionate of our own anger.
That's so good. It reminds me of a story that a former associate, Marianne Williamson, tells the story of the hyena. And she talks about the mother hyena, how she will guard and walk the perimeter around her young while they're eating to ensure that they eat first, and is willing to attack and to pounce anyone who encroaches upon her young ones trying to eat.
Yeah.
So Marianne Williamson ends that with, surely we're as good as the hyena.
Yeah. It's natural. And I think that's one of the things we try so hard, and I mean, for myself, I know that I tried so hard for so long till it literally broke me to deny my anger and my grief and my sadness and my outrage and all of these things. And these, until the lights finally came on and I realized, we are built this way for a reason. These, like you said, Jenny, these emotions are natural. We are meant to have them. There's a place with anything where it gets too much, or in the wrong circumstances, it can be toxic. And obviously that's something that we all need to be aware of. But there are places where these are here to keep us safe and whole and healthy, and it's part of who we are. And to deny any of that is to deny part of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes us so vulnerable to ungrounded people. So, so vulnerable.
Right. Like, I want the woo-woo. I want the woo-woo.
Right.
But I also want
Right.
your feet touching the ground, or I ain't interested.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's that balance.
Yeah.
Well, right. And Jeff talks about, in his book, he talks about how some of the spiritual people in the world that he followed or interacted with were, they went around saying, yes, we have this ungrounded behavior, but we're chosen to have this enlightenment. So it's okay if we act this way, but it's not okay for you to act that way.
Mhm.
And so I think, and like I said before when I was introducing myself, I have worked with people who have been snatched up by these personalities because they have that shame about their rage or their, grief or the traumas that have happened to them. They had ungrounded people snatch them up and take their personality and suck the soul out of them. So,
Or STEM.
abuse them, right? Yes, exactly. So I think that's why it's so important that we're okay with our feelings, the things that we've done wrong, harms that we've done to other people. And so, because if we push that down into the shadow, we are so vulnerable.
Absolutely. It reminds me so much. I was watching a documentary and I can't think of the guy's name. He is the guy from India that brought hot yoga to the United States.
Bikram.
Bikram.
Bikram, yes, absolutely.
He has a name, but it's Bikram. I forget what his name is.
There's a huge documentary because, of course, he was brought up on sexual assault charges. And I'm listening to you talk about that, and I'm like, holy cow, of course. Because in that path, you're taught to, it is, unenlightened to hold on to these emotions that ultimately keep you safe. If you're in a situation where you've got, somebody that's supposed to be enlightened, a guru in front of you that you trust more than your own judgment because you've disconnected from that. Of course, you're hugely vulnerable.
That's
right. Well, and one thing I wanted to share too, while you're talking about Kali, I'm thinking about my spiritual figure that I love so much is Mary Magdalene. I feel so close to her, and she was so maligned by the Catholic Church. She was called a prostitute when she was not a prostitute. And so, I think until Pope Francis came in, Pope Francis finally declared that she was not a prostitute. So it's like this powerful woman that in the Bible says she was Jesus's favorite disciple. And she was the one that saw him rise from the dead. Powerful women are shoved to the side for this patriarchal control. So we have to be fully human.
Well, the burning of the witches.
Right.
Women being
Wow.
power, that were demonized and called evil and then destroyed.
Because we are so powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So good.
Yeah, it really, really is. One of the things that I was so excited and have been really delving further and further into was the connection that he talked in at length about between the body and the energy that we hold, the emotional energy that we hold in the body, and working the body to release that as a way to help process a lot of things like grief and anger that we have tamped down and held on to. And once he was able to process that stuff, that opened a pathway for greater connection to the divine, which I thought was amazing.
So good. So
Yeah.
good.
And that's a part of like the work that I'm doing as a trauma therapist. That's the way trauma therapy is going, is working, because our body, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And it's all about, sorry, I got distracted because I was thinking about Bessel van der Kolk, and he has recently been, some comment about Meghan and Harry talking about how they didn't really experience trauma from the royal family. And so it reminds me of what we were just talking about a guru. He is a guru in the trauma world.
Yeah.
And he makes this statement about, he's judging the people's racial trauma. So, but anyway, yeah, I love that connection that Jeff makes too about the body and working those and being more connected to the divine.
So good. So good. It reminds me of a message that came to me during one of my meditations. Make sure your guru has done their shadow work.
Right.
Make sure your guru, your pastor, your therapist, whoever this mentor is, it's okay to ask them, what kind of shadow work have you done?
Mm-hmm.
It's so important that we not have them on this pedestal.
Yeah.
Completely. And that's when I have a lot of conversations with people that are diving into their own spirituality, and they're coming out of, a lot of them off of traditional religious paths, that are delving into more, I guess, new age philosophies and personal spirituality. And I have conversations with them all the time about, be choosy with your teachers. You're sitting in a classroom, or you're sitting in some sort of mentoring situation, and something doesn't feel right, then it doesn't feel right. And that's what you need to listen to. I don't care if everybody else in the room is completely glued. It's not for you. And that's totally fine. And it's finally gotten to the point, and it sounds conceited, but I'll explain a little bit. But I've gotten to the point where I'm my own guru. I've realized that this internal knowing here has to be this is the only guidance system I got.
Yep.
This it comes with all of the tools, like an acorn. It comes with everything you could possibly ever need to make an oak tree. And so, I have to listen to this above anything else, because that's what's going to keep me on my path, keep me safe, keep me whole, keep me sane, and keep me, all of the things.
I love that, Molly. I love that. And my work with Jean Houston, she taught me the word entelechy. And that's what you've just described. It's like that innate intelligence within us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the innate intelligence that is within the acorn to become the oak tree. Mm-hmm. It's that innate intelligence of the embryo to become a baby. Mm-hmm. So there's this innate intelligence within us to be the fullest expression of who we've come here to be. And the question is, what does that look like? Who are we fully expressed?
Yeah.
And by delving in deep, going deep within, being grounded in our spirituality, we equip ourselves to be the fullest expression of who we've come here to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And isn't that a gift?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yep. Well, and we're all connected to the divine that is connected to all the answers that we need. So we just have to sit back and get out of the way and realize that we have that inside of us. So, and I think really it takes whoever, if it's a therapist, if it's a pastor, if it's a some other, I'd hate to use the word guru because guru has become like negative to me now, so, but all their responsibility is to witness and be with you and like allow you to say what you need to say or connect in a safe place.
Yes.
That's really in a non-judgmental place.
Mhm.
The scariest people are the people who think they have God in their pocket. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I used to be one of those scary people.
Right. Yeah.
I was a big old scary person because in my not wanting to go within and look at where my shadow was, it was as if I'm broken, but I can fix you.
Mhm.
Right.
How spiritually arrogant is that? And it's sad.
Mhm.
There's a sadness about it. And then this freeing feeling, this freeing authenticity that comes up when we're willing to go to that deep part, that woundedness, that wounded part that we've never been courageous enough to touch. When that beautiful gift of desperation came up for me and I touched that, wow.
Mhm.
It's so freeing. It's liberation.
Yeah.
And it's beauty, being able to experience the rich beauty of our individual and unique selves. I had no idea. I mean, this is stuff that, is all new to me within the past 10 years, but even, the the most precious pieces of it have only been gifted to me in the last 2 to 3. I've started to come into an understanding where I've been able to, you know, look at myself and being excited about learning more about myself and how I work. And, it's I think, we live in a culture that, it's so funny how focused we are on celebrity and aesthetics and all of that superficial crap. But then at the same time, we are told that, focusing on ourselves and leaning into ourselves is bad too. In any kind of, deep way. It's almost like it's narcissistic, and it's not. It's healthy and such a beautiful experience. We are each here that we know about once. I will be in this body one time. This is my only ride as Molly Maloney, and getting to know this person in this context. Wow, what an experience if I can lean in.
Yes.
Let myself experience all of the things, all of the feelings, and all of all the things.
So good.
My God.
So good. And this leaning in that you speak of, Molly, when I first started in this segment that we're doing, I said that I wanted to offer the welcoming prayer. I didn't do that. I got off course. And the welcoming prayer really taught me exactly what you're speaking of, to lean into it, to lean into those emotions that we call negative, to lean into those emotions that are uncomfortable. And this 2 lines of this prayer that was created by the Catholic mystics of all people. It's like I had no idea there were mystics in the Catholic religion, and there are. It's beautiful. The 2 line of the prayer goes, I lovingly watch my ego let go of its desire for security, affection, and control. And I embrace, meaning that real me, that authentic me, I embrace this moment exactly as it is. So I lovingly watch my ego let go of its desire for security, affection, and control. And I embrace this moment exactly as it is. And what I noticed was when I lean into the discomfort, when I lean into whatever it is, the joy, but these uncomfortable emotions, if I just lean in without resistance, they pass much more quickly. They're there to guide me. It's not a punishment, it's a guiding system, is what I'm realizing. So I can ask myself, wow, noticing the body sensations. I'm feeling this rumbling in my stomach. What is that about? Well, I'm feeling fear. Why am I feeling the fear? And if I can just greet these emotions as teachers, they move through. I think of the poem by Rumi, Guest House, and if I don't know much of it, but I read it. It's lovely. But what Rumi speaks of is welcoming, as if these emotions are a guest in our home. A guest. They're not there to take up residency.
Right.
They're there. We'll sit and we'll have tea with them for a while, right? And then the guest leaves. So just leaning into these emotions is just, I'm finding so freeing and creating an authentic me.
It's amazing. One of the biggest surprises, this blew my mind, but it has been one of the biggest, like, aha, I figured a thing out with the help of my coach that I was working with. When I was in those places with really hard emotions that I was really resistant to, and I was really having trouble holding, the number one thing that helped me soften and hold and process those was, instead of offering them resistance, was offering them gratitude.
Yes.
My fear, my anger, my grief, all of the things that were working to keep me safe and help me process the things that were happening in my life. And once I stopped not only resisting them, but like you said, inviting them in and then thanking them, it's like everything just went and it just,
yeah. And then the guest leaves.
yeah, absolutely.
So good.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. One of my favorite new to me techniques in therapy is called internal family systems, and it talks about all of the parts. We're all made of different parts. And one of the techniques there is talking to one of your protective parts who shows up, and maybe that's anger, maybe it's like this right fighter, justice fighter, and you ask the therapist, ask that part, or you tell the person who's in therapy to ask that part, hey, is there something else you would rather do than do this job right now? So it's so, well, first of all, that whole thing is non-pathologizing. And two, it is acknowledging just what you said, Molly, these parts of us are here for a reason. And then we can ask that part, hey, would you like to stay and watch what happens when we get to this really hurt part of this person or yourself, so that you will feel okay with what is happening here? I just love that. I love that so much because it's all welcome. It all serves a purpose.
Yeah.
So
It's like counsel. It's like your counsel, around the fire.
right,
I actually just recently experienced internal family systems for the first time recently. And it's funny because I had encountered it in mostly a spiritual setting, kind of introduced in a different way through energy work. So it was amazing to encounter it in like a therapist setting. But one of the things that, we discovered was, I had a very, very strong gatekeeper that was, very rigid about not only things coming in, but me going out, being, didn't want to be too much. So, there was a very strong gatekeeper. So identifying that, welcoming it, thanking it, and then, like you said, asking, is this okay, this conversation or whatever work that we're doing, negotiating with it, and then asking it if it's ready to step aside. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing.
It helped me unlock personally, because I think we were talking earlier about, I said it's scary to have people that think they have God in their pocket. So, and I think for a lot of people that comes from when it's spiritual workers or therapists or nurses or whoever's in the helping profession, they're coming at it of a place of like, I want to help this person and I want to do anything I can do to help this person. And so they run over what the person wants,
Right.
just, right. And that was a big part of me. And so the parts work of it allowed me to say, this part of me is so well intentioned. She really wants to help people feel better, but she is running over what the person across from her wants and not even asking if this is what they want. So the heart's work has helped me to say, okay, fix it, Jenny. Sit over here and let that person tell you what it is they need, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's, I mean, and we can have compassion for these gurus who spiritually bypass because it comes from a place of, I don't want you touching my stuff, and I want you to help, I want to help you get to, you know, where I am. You know, I think for some people, and I think for some people they're just narcissistic and
Sure. Yeah.
right, you know,
And
so yeah.
I think that the key that I've realized for me is, and this is another piece that came to me in Journey, and I had this moment where it's like the most important phrase in the entire human language is "I don't know." You know, there
Yeah.
comes a point, you know, and you know, even with all of the wisdom that we come in or we come to, and it doesn't matter what line of work that you are in, I don't care how many PhDs you have, you still can't know everything. And so remaining teachable, realizing that things that we can't know and being present with that and okay with that and open to expanding and embracing more, I think is so important with our teachers and you know,
And you,
practitioners
yeah. And you can never know better than the person knows themselves
absolutely.
what they need.
Yeah.
You will never know that. Never. So, one thing I wanted to mention too is all of this spiritual work is so hard. Like Kim said, getting to that fourth step is so hard. And I know personally that looking at my own stuff, it was welcome. And I'm so glad that I see it and I'm getting to know myself. But I know it came with a lot of anxiety, with a lot of panic, with a lot of like feeling so torn about it, you know, like I was saying earlier about being knowing I'm connected spiritually, but being so afraid that to come out like that. So it is really wonderful work. It is extremely difficult. And you might feel like you're dying in the process of it, which
I think
again,
I have,
And we kind of are.
I was gonna say, I think I
The
have to
ego,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
the ego was withering. The ego is like, no, I'm here to protect you. I'm here to offer security, affection, and control.
yeah,
And while those are human needs that we have, the ego tries to tell us, well, I'll fix that for you.
yeah,
So it is a death, isn't it?
Oh,
yeah.
completely. And you mentioned earlier, you know, the imagery of the butterfly coming out of the chrysalis, and it's such a beautiful image. But you know, I know myself especially, I tend to forget inside that chrysalis, it's utter destruction.
It's goo,
Nothing
right?
but goo. Exactly, exactly.
Deepak
Everybody
Chopra calls it
Yeah.
the imaginal cells.
Mhm.
It's like we have the caterpillar that becomes the chrysalis, that becomes this unidentifiable goo to the butterfly. You know, and I saw a meme on Facebook not too long ago. I don't remember it verbatim, but it basically said, you know, we forget that the butterfly didn't just, you know, come out of the cocoon where, you know, we slap a butterfly badge on it. It's like there's been a process.
Yes.
And it was a very uncomfortable process. So can you lean into that discomfort and not make it wrong? Can you lean into that? Can I lean into that discomfort and say, what are you here to teach me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's important too, you know, we're talking about how hard this is. I know, you know, I know for people in my own life that I cherish, there are some they're not there yet. They're not ready to lean in because they're just it's too much. And that's okay too. That gets to be okay too.
Yeah.
It'll take time. But you know, I think giving everybody permission to take care of themselves as they go through this process that was one of the things, because I was, you know, I was raised in a military household, and it was all about, you know, oh yes, you may be falling apart on the inside, but you're fine, and rub some dirt in it, and you know, keep on going. And so having, giving myself even now permission to, have days where I can't fucking do it.
Yep.
I
Yep.
can't.
And letting that be okay,
And
right?
letting that be okay. It's such a simple thing, but it is massive at the
Right.
same time. Giving myself that permission was a huge step for me. And it's so important.
Right. Yeah.
It's everything.
Good stuff, ladies.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, any last thoughts? And actually, why don't do we want to take a quick look here? Let me see. Amy asked, did you all struggle with religion and hypocrisy? That's my biggest struggle.
I would say yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Religion and hypocrisy.
Yes.
And this whole practice what you preach thing, I didn't see a lot of that growing up.
Yeah.
I heard the preaching, but the lives didn't match. The integration wasn't there. So again, when I get real clear about what I don't want, I get real clear about what I do want.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think the humanness of those people that were preaching it was so, like talking about the gurus being, some people are enlightened and I get to behave like this. But if it's, my experience with Christianity is you put that pastor or priest on a pedestal and they stay on that pedestal and they don't admit to their humanness,
Mhm.
So yeah, and
we feed a narcissistic ego by
yes,
yeah,
It
right.
becomes dangerous. Yeah.
Well, and what it boils down to me about the hypocrisy is the message is you pay attention to what the message is and not how other people have interpreted it.
Yeah.
So that's how I've gotten past the hypocrisy. Like if you get out the scriptures of whatever religion that you are practicing, you look at those words and you feel what it is in your heart. And it all boils down to love. It all boils down to non-judgment and everyone's equal. So anything other than that is not the fundamental of any religion, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I've
Yep.
gotten past the hypocrisy.
Yeah, that was one of my big ahas, Amy Jean, was recognizing, moving from being a religious person to being a spiritual person. Two totally different experiences. But what I got when I moved into identifying myself as not a religious person and a spiritual person, then I could go back to the church and take what I like and leave the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I love sitting in a cathedral. I love that. I can make it sacred now.
Yeah.
Right. So, and one of the things that I want to mention too that we didn't touch on was, this dark night of the soul experience. Every master teacher has gone through a dark night of the soul experience. You think about it.
Yeah.
Jesus was crucified, became the Christ.
Yeah.
And
Siddhartha,
he doubted at his crucifixion. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
My God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So even he had doubts during this dark night of the soul experience, but we see he resurrected and became the Christ. Siddhartha left the palace walls to go see the suffering of the people. He became human. Yeah. He recognized these human emotions and the full range of human emotion. So Siddhartha, in leaving the palace walls and witnessing the suffering of the people, became more human and became enlightened and became Buddha. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's another wonderful example. So this whole hypocrisy subject, it's painful. I know that. I've seen it with my own eyes too. Yeah. But recognizing the difference between religion and spirituality really helped me.
Absolutely. And for me, again, it was, trusting this above all else and knowing, hey, this doesn't feel like a right fit. and allowing myself to be okay with that, and finding something that made more sense, which is always an ongoing process, always being led. But that was the big thing for me. But that hypocrisy, that was that was a heartbreaking thing. And it has continued to be, as we see things on the news with our religious leaders and gurus and priests and pastors and but
And that's not spiritual. It is human, right?
it is people that have not dealt with their human.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Who deny their humanness.
Yeah. And fall to it.
Right. Yeah.
Ain't it great being human?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
I can really say I for the most part I lean into it, and it's liberating.
That reminds me of a quote earlier. Thank you for saying that, because there was a quote in Grounded Spirituality that I was like, oh my gosh, yes. How people always say we're human, we're spiritual beings having a
human experience. Yeah.
And Jeff Brown turns it around and says, we are human beings having a spiritual experience. I'm like, mic drop. That is amazing. Yeah. So, yeah.
So important. And we had one final comment from my beautiful cousin Sarah, talking about, when we're talking about rage, she says it takes such courage to engage that rage. Yes, yet it is so important.
Yeah. Because it alienates us from people, right? Especially if we're women, or we're, or people of color, it alienates them.
Oh, completely. Well, one of the things that was been such a breakthrough for me is realizing, because I went through the and certainly I'm not advocating being against medication for people that need it, and feel that's where they need to be. Absolutely. But for myself, I realized when I was on the anti-anxiety, antidepressant path, that it took care of my anxiety. It was helping my depression, but it cut off. Like, it wasn't, you can't, and this has been true after the medication path for me too, is realizing I cannot drown out, the emotions I don't want, and not drown out the stuff that I do want. It's not a salad that you can pick and choose out the things that you don't like. It's kind of all or nothing.
Yeah.
And so, drowning that rage out does alienate people, because from themselves first and foremost.
Right. Yeah.
Very good. There was a time not too long ago that I could not have stood on the front line with the Black Lives Matter movement, because I was judgy. I would have thought things like, can't you do this peacefully? Why are you so angry, young Black man? And it's like, when I got to that underbelly of my own suffering, my own trauma, that was my aha. I was able to see the suffering of this young Black man, and it comes out looking like rage and anger. And what I know is, this young man has been traumatized by the systemic racism that we white people are responsible to dismantle. So I was able to have compassion, whereas years ago, when I had all the answers, of course, I couldn't have approached it the way that I have. So I advocate for self-compassion.
Absolutely. And that having compassion for myself has unlocked my ability to tap into that same, really tap into the pain and the rage and the anger around racism too, and on such a different level.
Yes.
But I had to go here first.
That's right. That's exactly right. And then I was able, in that moment, to remind that young Black man or that young Black woman, the youth in the Black Lives Matter movement. I tell you, there's so much amazing untapped potential in these young people. So I was able to meet them where they were and remind them You are a young king. You are a young queen. Remember who you are, and don't let these police officers agitate you into being who you're not. So it was like meeting them where they are and recognizing that it's trauma. These are trauma responses.
Absolutely.
Well, and their anger is real and normal for what's happening to them. Their boundaries, their humanity is being violated. So that anger is totally justified and appropriate.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. It just makes me think of I've loved the John Adams miniseries that was out almost 20 years ago. But he's in the courtroom and he's defending the British troops that were involved in the Boston Massacre, and he's talking about, you know, people are taunting them and throwing, you know, they've got clubs and they're throwing bricks and all of this stuff. And he's like, what do you expect these people to do? They're terrified for their lives. You expect them to stand there like stoic philosophers?
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Doesn't
like stoic philosophers. That's great.
I love that line.
It's
I love
great.
that line.
Yeah.
Right. Well, ladies, thank you so much for this time and for being here in all of your units. That makes any sense. But I'm so grateful to you. This is such wonderful, good, rich conversation, and I am grateful to you both. So
thank you, Amy, for Amy. I'm calling you Amy, Molly, and Jen.
Yeah.
And thank you, Amy Jean, for being on the call. That's just I love her, and I've watched her. She's the epitome of authenticity. She will just, I mean, she's living an authentic life from my perception. And I just so respect that.
And super talented, I will say too.
Well,
she's got her artwork that I'm just blown away by. So.
I know it. I know.
Yeah.
So thank you for the time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jen. Your expertise is just so
yes.
needed.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. I'm so thankful to be here.
Love you guys, and we will be back very, very soon.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Pick up the book, guys.
Yes.
What I didn't tell you, I want to tell you this real quick.
Oh, yes.
You know, trying to be all studious, right? I was going to take a hot bath because I love hot baths with Epsom salt. And I thought, well, I'll just read my book while I'm in the tub. Well, wouldn't you know, I went to go check on the dogs and my book fell in the tub. Look at this. Crazy. So thank goodness for grounded spirituality. I didn't beat myself up. I actually laughed about it, right? So,
yeah.
That's good seeing you all.
Absolutely. Love you guys.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.